So you started from nothing in Zimbabwe, basically homeless.
I ended up working for some of the biggest law firms in the country.
Literally, with just the paperwork, you can double the value of a building.
We are now recommended by some of the biggest auctioneers in the country. I can't believe you got such a huge hotel for just £1. Business is about taking the money. But what are you doing? Are you helping the next person? How dare you think you could actually...
How dare you think you can outbid me, Julie? So Julie, welcome to the show. I met you when I was out in Zimbabwe and I was working with some real estate investors and boxing gym with Hassan. And I got connected to you and I was told you need to meet Julie. She's a property lawyer. And since then we've got to know each other, become friends. It's great to have you on the show. So I wanted to just really pick your brain and learn how you started from nothing and became a millionaire through property, through your legal practice. So why don't you just give a little bit of an introduction to your backstory and how you got started?
Amazing. Samuel, thank you so very much for having me on your podcast. It's something that I've hoped and prayed for the longest. It was great to meet you the last time in Zimbabwe. So I'm from Zimbabwe. I was born in a family of 8. My father died when I was only 10 months old. So we struggled a lot, financially. We were kicked out of the village. My father was actually shot during the War of Liberation. And for some reason, people thought it was my mother. And how absurd can that be?
Wow.
When he was shot by soldiers. Nevertheless, they kicked her out of the village and she had 8 children. She didn't have anywhere to go. So that was a real struggle for us. So cut the long story short, we moved from the village to Harare, which is the capital of Zimbabwe. And then there, my mum became a housemaid. She worked for a woman who I absolutely loved, a white lady called Auntie Maggie. She looked after my mum a lot. So my mum was the housemaid and then they gave us somewhere to live. So where we lived was, have you been to Mbari? Like one of those ramshackle houses that are made of plastic. Mm-hmm. So that was my life. But it was a good life though, Samuel. There was love there. There was all the positive things that you can have without money. Because whilst money is very important, I also think that there's a lot to life than that. So anyway, fast forward, Auntie Margie died a few years later. But what happened then was really sad because initially mum was getting paid money. And then after a while, she was like, okay, I've got a side gig. Like she used to go to South Africa. She used to go to factories, like sewing factories. So they would throw their little pieces of cloth and things. Mum would take those and then sew them up into like bedspreads, duvet covers and stuff. So she started making money that way because she was super resourceful. So the money that was coming from her housemaid business, she didn't actually really desperately need that. So she had a deal with Auntie Maggie to say, instead of paying me, could you keep that money and I use it towards this property? So it was like a lease option of some sort.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's exactly what happened. But the difference here, Samuel, is we didn't have any written documentation at all in relation to that. So when Auntie Maggie died, guess what? We were kicked out.
She's sad. And that's the same with lease options, right? Get it written, get an agreement.
Literally. So that's where my passion came from.
Really?
Yes.
Is that what kind of got you started wanting to get into law?
100%. When I told you about the first time when we were kicked out of the village, I was only 10 months old.
Right.
So I had no memory, no recollection, no emotion.
So what was it like, the injustice of it?
Yeah. So this time I was old enough to see exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
And for us to be homeless, pretty much for all intents and purposes.
Right.
And I saw how hard my mother had worked all her life. And then all of a sudden she's kicked from a house that's meant to be hers legally. She had an option to purchase it and she was actually paying little by little. You and I know the different kind of options and things and hopefully we can get to talk about that. So when that happened, I thought, no. There has to be a better way. People who are like my mom, maybe they don't have that much money, legal access and all the rest of it, but there should be some sort of justice.
100%.
So I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get into property and I'm going to be super successful.
How long have you been based in the UK?
I came here in November 1998.
Okay.
So my family put money together because I said to them,
how are you so well spoken when you're from like rough parts of Zimbabwe?
You're too kind. So because I studied law, I knew that my accent is still slightly dislocated, but I knew that to be taken seriously, I had to speak properly. Mm-hmm. And so I learned how to speak and I learned how to speak properly.
So you started from nothing in Zimbabwe.
Yes.
basically homeless, kicked out of this property, which your mom really should have had the option to buy.
Yeah.
But because Maggie passed away, there was no proof of that. So did you go to law school then in Zimbabwe?
No, I didn't, because we only had one university at the time. So no, I couldn't go to university in Zimbabwe. It was very tight to go to uni.
Yeah.
So what I did was I knew that I would be able to qualify here in Great Britain. So I asked my family I begged them to put money together. My brother borrowed some money and everybody just chipped in, and we put together £500. Yes. So they gave me £500
Which
to
was
be
enough
able to
do
start.
what? To get a flight, come out here?
Yeah, and live.
How did you afford to go to law school? How did you finance that?
Oh, that's a very, very long story. So when I came to England, I didn't know anybody at all. My sister had arranged for me to stay with her friend in Edgware. So I got to Gatwick and they said you needed to get a tube. And I was looking for a tube. I was like, tube? How do you get a tube? What is a tube? But never mind. I found my way. And then I lived with these people. They were wonderful to me until the immigration popped up. And I was told that, oh, you've got to pack your little suitcase and go because the immigration are here and you're not officially allowed to be here. So that was me. I caught a bus from Edgware and then I just sat on the bus, like crying, thinking, okay, where am I going? What am I going to do? I don't know anyone. And I wasn't even 20 at that point. So that was quite scary. But anyway, I got to the end of the road and the bus driver was like, you've got to get out now. I was like, okay, great. And I did. I walked around for a little. And then after that, I saw the red payphone booth and I knew that was going to be my home. So anyway, I stayed in a phone box for a little while. And then fast forward that, I started my nurse training because that's what I could do to be able to get a visa. And also they were giving me like a bursary. So I didn't have to pay. I was paid to study.
That's great.
Yeah. So I enjoyed what I was doing. I was super caring. As I was doing my nurse training, I was also studying and working to be able to look after my family home. So that's basically how I did it. And I found a way to qualify as a solicitor without necessarily going to law school straight away. So I did what is called ILEX, Institute of Legal Executives. That's the route that I took to train.
And what is that then? So how do you get that?
Okay, so you study.
Like at home?
Yeah, you study at home while you're working.
And you pay to do it?
Yes, I pay to do it, but it's a lot less than university fees.
And what qualification do you get then when you finish that?
I was a chartered lawyer, so a Chartered Institute of Legal
So
Executives.
you could become a chartered lawyer just studying at home?
Yes, you can, but after that you need to work before you can qualify. So what they encourage you to do is to be working in a law firm while you're also studying.
And that's what you did?
That's what I did, which is why now, even in my law firm, I offer people apprentices because I also want to help people who are also like me, who may not have, the resources to be able to pay university fees and all the rest of it. So there are loads of different routes to qualify as a solicitor in Great Britain. So that's what I did. But the amazing thing, Samuel, is I actually ended up working for some of the biggest law firms in the country.
Who did you work for?
I worked for Countrywide
Really?
lawyers. Yes, but not just that. I worked for Denton's, which is the biggest law firm in the whole wide world. Do you see?
What year were you working for Countrywide?
Oh, God, I can't even remember.
Do you remember
now.
roughly?
Do I genuinely can't?
The only reason I ask is because we might have been colleagues at one point because I was
No
working as a sales neg for Countrywide.
No way.
Yeah. So I was selling properties
God.
as a sales negotiator for Countrywide Bear Weaves in Birmingham.
Oh.
Meanwhile, maybe you were doing the
law
conveyancing at the back end.
No, I think it would have been maybe 2007, 2008.
Okay, yeah,
I
a
think.
little bit. Mine was around about 2010, 2011.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I didn't last very long, to be honest,
you
doing
not?
that. No, I didn't last very long. But that's the thing. I think working as an estate agent or even as a lawyer, I guess you've got your own practice, so it's different. But when you're an employee, it's such hard work. And if you worked as hard on your own business or your own property portfolio, you could potentially be quite rich. So
Of course.
when
You
did
can
you
make a lot
when
more.
did you set up then your own law practice? What year was that?
It was actually 2020.
Okay, so it's just been about 4 years.
Yeah, it's been about 4 years, but I have done exceptionally well. Allow me to toot my own horn. So we specialize in auctions. We do lease options as well. So the firm is called Creative Legals because we offer creative strategies.
Right, and that's that synergy because
This is it.
because we buy creatively. We do lease options, we buy from auctions, we do pre-auction, post-auction, all the stuff that we do. That's why when we met, we got on so well because you're like, oh, well, yeah, I do that. I do evictions and this. And that's your kind of like
It is.
USP, your niche, so to speak. So how big is your practice then? Like what are you turning over, or how many staff have you got, or how many clients do you have?
Yeah, sure. So we've been blessed because we are now recommended by some of the biggest auctioneers in the country. So you will find us in the Barnard Markers auction catalogue. You will find us in the Auction House London auction catalogue. You will find us Clive Emerson. So all the big boys.
And we've got mutual connections there as well.
Exactly.
With people like Mr. Sam Fungo. These auctioneers and these consultants that are,
100%. So I think to start in 2020 and then now to grow to that level, we're clearly doing something right. So I believe in relationship with clients long-term, and relationships with business providers. And I think that is what makes a difference, because with most solicitors' practices, sometimes it's just volume. But we're different. We're specialists. We know exactly what we're doing, and we value relationships. So once you're with us, you never go away.
And where does most of your money come from then? Or where have you made most of your money? Is it in doing the creative property strategies yourself, or is it about doing the conveyancing and the legal practice, or is it 50-50? What would you say the breakdown is?
So I made my first $1 million from property investment. So that was that. But now I make a lot at the legal side of things as well.
Do you think it's a lucrative business?
Oh, law?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. So I think it depends on how many people you help and the kind of people that you help.
How does a Zimbabwean from nothing end up making millions of pounds setting their own law practice up? How does that happen?
I think it's about purpose. I think it's about passion. You saw me crying earlier. And even now, I got tearful when we're talking about property, when we're talking about homelessness, when we're talking about things like that. So property means a lot to me. It's not just about money. That is my pain. I was homeless how many times? As a family, how many times were we kicked out of properties? So because I've got that, it's a passion. I don't look at the profit. I think, how can I help you? How can I help you make a difference? Because I know what I went through.
Yeah.
So I think if you're coming from that position where you want to add value, it's different, isn't it?
So I think so. I think if you're passionate about what you do, you're then good at it. And if you're good at it, then people will pay you.
Naturally.
Especially if you're in a profitable profession.
Yeah.
And property investing is profitable. I mean, how did you make your first $1 million then in property? What were you doing?
Yeah, sure. So I started off rent to rent because I didn't have that much money.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so I started off with a little property in Coventry, £500 and all the rest of it. So rent to rent was my door.
And would you do rent to serviced accommodation or rent to HMO?
I just started with a bog standard 2 up, 2 down. Just a normal property.
Yeah.
And then splitting up the rooms,
Yeah, rent to HMO.
I think you're right. I think you're right. But I didn't need any license at the time. So
because it's just 4 beds. So.
100%. Right. So that's it. So
what, you just paying £500 a month for the property, and then you're renting it room by room for £400-500, paying the bills, making a bit of money.
100%.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. But what I did make sure is I made sure that I had the documentation.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, because of what had happened previously.
Proper commercial lease or company let.
100%. And I think that's really important, Samuel, because when people hear us talk about having made millions and things like that, I think we need to actually reiterate the fact that it's important to dot the I's and cross the T's. If you don't have the right paperwork, if you don't have the right legal documentation, you could end up in a sticky situation.
100%. And rent to rent, you can make good money doing it, and it's very low entry point. But if you mess up on the paperwork and you don't have, we were talking earlier about people that sign 5-year leases on rent to rents that aren't even that profitable, and then they put themselves down as a guarantor with no break clause. Like, what are you thinking? People really don't understand the power of the paperwork.
No, they don't.
There we go. That'd be a good name for a program, wouldn't it? Power of the paperwork.
Ooh, I like that.
But it is though. Especially commercial property, even more so. Like the power of the paperwork. If you can get a new tenant in, paying a higher rent and a good quality tenant, literally with just the paperwork, you can double the value of a building.
You can.
So
you actually can.
This is, people don't understand the importance of the detail of the legal side of things.
No, they don't, Samuel, because the devil is in the detail. And like you say, the power of the paperwork, because people are making millions because of the paperwork. People are losing millions because of the paperwork. So you can create a legacy of liability or you can create a legacy of wealth. Your choice. And that could be based on the power of the paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you go from one little rent to rent, making £500 a month for something to having a...
Yeah, I grew a few more rent-to-rents, and then after that I had enough money to pay a deposit for my property up north.
Okay.
So I went to Barnett Marcus auctions, and I bid online while I was still working at Premier Solicitors as a lawyer. So I did that during my lunch break, and I found a property that was, I think it had a guide price, if memory serves me right, of like 15,000. So I thought, yeah, this is good. I can afford it. Obviously, it shot up to a crazy figure, and I'll tell you exactly why. I am a winner. I win. I fight to win. And that's just basically that. We were boxing together the other time, weren't we? So when I was bidding, I made that mistake. I thought, I'm going to win. I am definitely going to win. You don't do that with auctions.
No, because the winner of the auction is often is the loser.
I know.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened to me.
So
I was thinking,
true.
Yes, I was thinking, how dare you think you could actually...
How dare you think you could outbid me, Julie?
I'm Julie. Do you not know that?
Yeah.
Do you see? So that's exactly what happened. And at the time, I think stamp duty was 40,000. And I didn't even want to pay stamp duty. I didn't want it to go over 42. But I just got, bidding happy. And that's it. So that's advice that I would give to anyone.
And auctions, again, talking of the power of paperwork, you can get screwed up at auction if you don't understand how to read legal packs. And we've discussed this in great detail about some of the crazy things that can be in a legal pack, which if you don't read it or you don't understand what it means, ignorance is not bliss in this industry.
I like that a lot because that is the reality of it. Ignorance is definitely not bliss at all. But then again, sometimes it's blatant ignorance, but also sometimes it's sheer laziness.
Yes.
Because people have got the legal pack. It's easy. You can just click, download it, but they're not doing it. And you see them on Homes Under the Hammer saying, I bought this property, I didn't even read the legal pack, and as if that's an achievement. It really isn't, is it?
No.
So that's how I see it, because you could be lumbered with costs. And there are loads of other different pitfalls when it comes to auction, because the first question to ask yourself is, why is it being sold at auction? Not just conventionally, traditionally, like all the other properties. So you see, sometimes properties sold at auction have got a legal disability, sometimes they've got a structural disability. And, sometimes people just want to sell quickly. It could be a mortgagee in possession. But one of the first questions you should ask yourself is, why is this property being sold at auction?
Yeah.
And if you find that it's a mortgagee in possession, selling it is a housing association selling it, then take comfort in that. But if you don't know, you have to delve deep.
You have to. So did you buy that £15,000 guide price property or not?
Yeah, for 42. Okay, we don't have to go on about that.
So you bought it for 42. What was it?
A house in Middlesbrough,
What?
2 bedrooms.
That sounds
roughly.
cheap still, though. 42 grand, no?
Yes, it does.
Do you still own it?
No.
What happened to that?
Okay, so I didn't view it.
That's mistake number one.
All right. We don't have to rub it in. That's why I didn't want to talk about it anymore. So the bottom line is I didn't view the property, Samuel. And by the time I went to see it, it was on one of the roughest streets.
Oh, man. What were you thinking, Julie?
All right. I didn't know any better. We all learn from our mistakes.
But you were doing good in property. You were making all this money from rent to rent at the time.
Yeah, rent to rent. But
it's different.
Do you see what I mean?
It is different, yeah.
And I think we need to embrace the fact that it's totally different. But we also need to discuss our failures, because by doing that, people can learn from us.
It's true.
Because if it's all shiny, Julie has made millions, it hasn't always been like that. At all, I've made mistakes. I've got regrets and all the rest of it. And this one, do I regret it? Maybe yes, maybe no. But at the end of the day, I should always take away something from anything and everything that happens to me, because I always look at things as if it's happening for me, not to me.
Did you lose money on that, or did you?
Of course I did. I lost money because by the time I went to view the property, it had nothing in it. It was like a shell, super duper shell. So what some of these people do nowadays, or used to do in the day, is they would paint the windows and stuff, make it look super good outside. And then you'll just have photographs of the exterior. You won't have internal photos. So when I went in, there was nothing. No bathtub, no taps, no anything. So I think people had taken the lead and the steel and whatever they do.
Yeah, they will. They'll sell it.
So that's exactly it. So when I went in, it was a shell. And I thought this property was ready to let, but it wasn't. So I ended up investing a lot of money to bring it up to, a habitable state, as it were. And the strategy at that point was to buy it, refurb, and then, refinance and move to the next one.
Yeah.
That was the strategy. But I lost a lot of money.
Because you had to spend too much on the refurb.
Yes.
If you buy it for 40 grand and then you spend 50 grand doing it up and then the end value is 70 grand, you lost 20. You should have been better off just buying one in good condition.
I know, but you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, it's true. So you learn from that. What have been some of the juicy deals that you've done then over the years? What have been some of the wins?
A lot, because I just continued. I think the key thing in business is don't lose momentum. If one thing goes wrong, keep buying. So I continued buying up north. I bought a lot of properties up north. I think I bought about 42.
42 houses?
Yeah, I did.
In how long of a period?
About three years or so.
Damn. So what, you just made a bit of money and went to rent, used that money, bought a couple cheap houses, pushed to buy it, refinanced, pulled the money back, and then just kept recycling it again and again?
Yes, I did that.
Does your law firm specialise in tenant evictions as well?
Yes, we do a lot of evictions.
So you know all about, so it's so handy knowing the law when you're in property. If you know about legal packs, you know about contracts, you know about rent-to-rents, lease options, you know how to kick tenants out legally. I think it's important that people understand the difference between a guest and a tenant. What rights do guests have? Let's say you're renting a property out on Airbnb, or you've got a service department, and you've got a guest that moves in, just for the night, and then they don't leave. What rights do they have, and what rights do you have as the owner of the property?
Well, I think it's akin to like being a hotel guest, isn't it? If you booked into the Hilton and you woke up and you decided that actually I don't want to leave, what would they do in that scenario? Would you not be kicked out?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Serviced accommodation is exactly the same thing. But again, let's talk about power of the paperwork. What's your paperwork in terms of the serviced accommodation?
Yeah.
Which platform is it on? What rules have you put in place?
Right.
So all of those things actually really, really matter. But if we just look at guest in the normal common sense meaning of the word guest, as like I said, a hotel guest, of course you've got to get out.
Yeah. So basically, but it is right what you say. It depends on what they've signed.
100%.
Have they signed a guest terms of hire, or have they signed a tenancy agreement?
Exactly.
You might call them a guest, but the law don't call them a guest.
Exactly.
It's just about what they signed.
Exactly. So power of the paperwork, you said.
So you still got your properties, you still got your rent coming in, you got your legal practice. So what's next? What's the future for your business? Where are you seeing things going, and what's the plan? Yeah,
sure. A future for the business, we are going to continue to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. We're going to be the biggest. As far as I'm concerned, we're the best specialist auction law firm in the country.
Yeah.
So we are going to get bigger. But in terms of Julie Condiff, the person, I am going to be focused more on just empowering people, helping people.
And I love that. And that's why you agreed to come on the show today, because you've started from nothing and you've achieved a lot, made mistakes as well.
I have.
And, so to put the time out to share and to inspire other people, I think is super important. What do you think the best opportunities are right now in the market?
I think auctions are really a good opportunity for people because a lot of people want to sell. We've got all the regulatory changes, the interest rates, and all the negativity really around landlords, which I dislike, passionately, because we talk about housing shortages. We talk about needing to get people into properties, and yet as a government, as a country, we're not helping that at all. Right. We're pushing landlords out. So I'm equally passionate about that. So I see some of my clients, some of them are elderly. They'd been waiting for a long time to use this money as their retirement. They can't do that anymore. They're mortgage prisoners. They can't even afford to pay their rent. But not just that, they can't afford to even evict the tenants. It's taking forever and a day. All the delays in court, and tenants actually know how to play the game. No disrespect to tenants, because it's not every tenant, but as a general rule, that's basically where we are with that. So people are trying to sell, and they're trying to sell super quickly, and auctions are a viable way of doing that. But I also think that it may be good for other landlords to be educated on your lease option opportunities, because sometimes, selling may not be the best thing, if there's no equity in the property. So what else can they do? It may be that a lease option may be a viable, option for them.
Yeah. What did you think of my £1 hotel that I bought?
Oh, that's what inspired me to say this. I think it's incredible. I can't believe you got such a huge hotel for just £1. But not just that though, Samuel. You didn't go in it for money. You are helping someone.
Yeah, that's true.
This person actually needs your help. Yeah. So you are helping them.
Well, don't get me wrong, we'll take the money.
Of course you will, but my point is, in any business, business is about taking the money. But what are you doing? Are you helping the next person?
Yeah, 100%.
So
I agree. Albert Einstein says, don't try and be successful, try and be valuable. And in property, you got your strategies. You're going to sit in front of people. You're going to say, look, how can I help? And you're going to use your knowledge and your strategies to bring a solution which is going to be win-win.
100%.
If you're just trying to get, you shouldn't be in any business. So that's great. Well, listen, Julie, I really appreciate you coming on. It's been great to get to know you a little bit, and for the viewers to be able to get to know you. I hope they've been inspired, and we look forward to seeing you again real soon.
Oh, it's been amazing. Thank you so very much, Samuel. I really appreciate you.